Hello everyone and welcome back to Java Forever course. Today we are starting a new concept called nested loop. Nested loops is very useful in certain scenarios where you cannot simply solve using a regular while or for loop. In the previous classes we have learned about while, we have learned about for loop, and in nested classes we'll see the use of those two either together or a two for loop or two while loop. It is a loop inside a loop. And the whole idea or concept is very similar to what we have seen in the case of nested conditions. If you remember nested condition, we said if, and we wrote some conditions, and inside we wrote another condition. And then we said another, let's call it Boolean expression 1, and this is Boolean expression 2. This is a classic example of nested conditions because this condition is dependent on condition on the top or parent condition. In a similar fashion, we will write and nest one for loop into another for loop. Let's take an example here. When you are dealing with a tabular data, what I mean by tabular data is we have a table and you have some rows here and you have some columns. Now this is what we call it column and this is called row. In this tabular data, as you will notice that for each row like this, you have multiple columns. Columns here, column 1, column 2 and column 3. There are 3 columns, right? Each row has. So my bad, actually those are rows. So when I take one row, you have first column, column 1, column 2, column 3 and column 4. Similarly, in the second row, row 2, you have 4 columns here and so on. In order to deal with this type of tables, you need at least 2 for loops. One for loop that goes row by row, the top loop, and within that each loop you go by columns. I have written code here just to demonstrate this idea. You can see this code, what it does, it has one for loop on the top that says I equal to 1 and I is less than 4. That means you want to go up to 4 but not including 4. That means 3. And you want to increase value by 1. So you start with 1, go up to 3 in the hop of 1, 2 and 3, hop of 1. That's what these 3 the counter, condition and your counter update. Now within this curly braces, we have got another for loop, this one. And this for loop is using another counter. That's another important thing. You don't want to change the counter of the parent, otherwise it will mess up. You want to use a new counter for the loop inside. Each loop should have its own counter. Now for this inner loop, we are saying j equal to 1. Again, j is less than 5. That means we want to go up to 4 and in the hop of 1 again. What we are really doing in the code block inside the inner loop is that we are printing the value of I with one space and value of j. So first time, in fact, it is a good idea to use a trace table so that we really understand. Let's draw a quick trace table. This classic example of trace table, it's much easier to learn. So we'll draw our trace table here. And in this trace table, in the interest of time, I'm going to track quickly the value of I and j here. In the first step, when we say I equal to 1, I is 1 and j is undefined. We don't know j. Then we say, in the next step, we say I less than 4, answer is I less than 4, answer is true. And i's value does not change, nothing changed. Then it goes and says for each value of j, so now we are saying j equal to 1. At this point of time, I is still 1 and j becomes 1. And then it goes inside this and it prints 1 space 1. So it will print 1 space 1. Then we are still inside this code block. So we are not done with this loop because this loop has started, so it has to finish. So j becomes 2. When j becomes 2, at that point of time, system is going to print 1 space 2. Then again it will go back and print 1 space 3. Remember, I will go from 1, 2 and 3 and j will go from 1, 2, 3 and 4. What does it mean is every value of I, you will have 4 iterations of j. That means 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. Then next value of I. For every value of I, again same thing repeats. It will be 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3 and 2, 4. Similarly, you will have next value of I 3 and it will repeat the same thing. Every value of I, you have to repeat the loop of j. That is what inner loop means, because we are saying take one value of I, go and finish this block, go back. But in order to finish this block, you have to repeat 5 times, which is the inner loop, or sorry, 4 times. So the next time you will have 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3 and 3, 4. And you can see we are printing everything in its own line. We are doing print line. So the code is going to print in a sequence like this. It will say 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1 space 5, 2 space 1 and so on. Let's take a quick twist. We can also change this logic and say, hey, I want to print a calculation table. Right? Suppose I want to print a calculation table. I want to say 1. I want to print it and I want to say 1 and then I want to print 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 5. Then it's a 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. I want to print 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Right? I'm printing a multiplication table. Say 4, 8, 12, 16 and 20, and for 5 I'll say 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25 and so on. I want to now look at this multiplication table. I'm taking the rows from 1 to 5 and also for every row I'm counting, multiplying by the number to get the multiplication table. Now this part is relatively easy. Then all we have to do in this loop, we are going to say start from 1. Start from 1. Oops, sorry. We are saying start from 1. Go up to less than equal to 5. It will be 5. And then inside again less than equal to 5. J is less than equal to 5. And all we have to do is to print I. And this will be multiplication of j. So now it is going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it will print 2, 4 like that, because we are using print statement here, print line statement. Now if we want to print in the same row, we can just use print statement. But then problem is it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then it will print 2, 4, 6 in the same line. So we want to print a line, insert a line break here. And that's relatively easy. We can use every time we change this value of I, we say, change the value of j, we can insert here and say if j is equal to 1, if that's the first value, start printing on the next line. Otherwise, continue to print on the same line. And that way you can have very well formatted table printed on your screen. Go and give it a try, the variation I talked about. And also take a couple of quiz that I have, we have built it here for you to practice. As you see, it's pretty powerful, very, very powerful. In fact, the nested loop is a must have when you are using or processing a tabular data. Certain type of problems can only be solved or the best way to solve some type of problem, especially involving tabular data, is to use loops inside loops. The second important part is you can write a while loop inside a for or for inside a while. You can have multiple level of nesting. For example, I can write a for loop here, and then inside I can write a while loop like this. Or I can do vice versa. I can write a while loop here, and I can write a for loop. Depends on my problem statement. And I can even write third loop here inside this. Though it is rare, there is no limit of how far deep you can go, very similar to conditions, nested conditions. But typically you want to stop only at 2 or maybe maximum 3 when you're processing three-dimensional data. Beyond that, it is very hard to manage, and your trace table is going to be super complex. But as long as you follow the rules, follow the rules to use different counter for different loops, make sure that your conditions are correct so that you don't fall into infinite loop trap, and your problem statement requires you that type of a structure where you need nested loop, while inside for inside while, and all. Go ahead and do that, and that practice will really hone your skills and make you a good developer. So with that, thank you very much. I'll see you guys again in the next class. Happy practicing.
Thanks for watching. Do subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.